If I told you that one broken promise haunted me more than any mistake in my life, would you stay and listen? My name is Emily Carter. I wasn't the perfect daughter. Not even close. But I loved my father more than I ever said out loud. And I carry the weight of his final words like a stone in my chest. Dad was the kind of man who didn't talk much about his feelings. He showed love through fixing leaky faucets, warming my car on frosty mornings, and pretending he liked the burnt pancakes I made every Sunday as a kid. He was quiet, steady, a man who kept his promises and expected the same in return. So when he asked me to promise him something before he died, I said yes. I didn't even hesitate. But I didn't know that saying yes would tear my life apart and rebuild it in ways I never saw coming. It happened in a dull white hospital room. The beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic, the hushed whispers of nurses outside the door. I remember it all. Dad had been fighting cancer for months. We knew the end was near. But somehow I thought we still had time. He reached for my hand with a frail grip. "Emily," he said, his voice rasping like old paper, "I need you to take care of the farm." I blinked. The farm. That old, crumbling place out in Willow Creek. The one I had spent most of my teenage years trying to escape. The one I swore I'd never go back to. "I mean it," he added, seeing the hesitation in my eyes. "Don't sell it. Keep it. Grow it. Make it something." "Dad," I began. "I live in the city now. I have a job. A life. I don't even know how to run a... Promise me." His eyes locked onto mine. And something about the way he said it, so calm, so final, made me fold.
"I promise," he whispered.
And 3 days later, he was gone. The funeral was small. Rain fell like the sky was mourning with us. I stood next to my mother, whose hands were too cold, whose eyes were too dry, as if she'd already cried everything out in private. People came and went. Old friends, neighbors. They all said the same things. "Your father was a good man. He loved you so much, Emily. He'd be proud of you." I smiled. I nodded. But deep inside, I felt like a fraud. Because I hadn't told anyone. Not yet. Not about the promise. I went back to the city the next day. Returned to my apartment, to my marketing job, to my emails and takeout containers and Spotify playlists. I told myself I needed time. That I'd handle the farm later. Just not now. 1 month passed. Then 2. Then 6. Until one day, I got a letter from the bank. The farm was on the verge of foreclosure. I stared at the letter in disbelief. I hadn't realized the property taxes had lapsed. That the mortgage Dad quietly took out to cover medical bills was past due. And suddenly, my promise didn't feel symbolic anymore. It was real. I had 2 choices. Let the bank take it, or go back. I drove to Willow Creek on a cold February morning. The roads were dusted with frost. My breath fogged up the windshield. The town hadn't changed. Same diner. Same gas station. Same rusted welcome sign with 1 letter missing. The farm stood at the edge of town like a tired old man waiting for someone to remember him. The paint peeled from the house. The barn sagged. The fields were overgrown with weeds and broken promises. I stood at the gate and whispered, "What did I get myself into?" The first night was the hardest. No heat. No working plumbing. And worst of all, no signal. I sat in my dad's old recliner, wrapped in a blanket, rereading his journal I found tucked behind the fireplace. He had started it months before he died. "Emily doesn't know I took the loan. I don't want her to worry. She always hated this place. I hope one day she sees what I saw." That night, I cried for the first time in months. Not because he died, but because I had been blind to how much he believed in me. The next morning, I rolled up my sleeves. I fixed the pipes, painted the porch, cleared the fields one weed at a time. I didn't know what I was doing. I Googled everything, watched endless tutorials, called old neighbors like Mr. Grant, who showed me how to use the tractor without killing myself. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked one evening, wiping grease off his hands. "I promised him," I said simply. He didn't ask again. Seasons passed. I learned how to grow tomatoes, how to trap raccoons, how to survive the loneliness that came at night when the wind howled through the broken windows. I learned how to miss someone so much it made your ribs ache. But slowly the farm started to change. And so did I. Then one afternoon, a girl showed up at the gate. About 10. Freckles. Bike helmet askew. "Are you the lady fixing up the Carter place?" she asked. "I guess I am." "You're not very good at it." I laughed. "You're probably right." Her name was Lily. She came every Saturday after that. Told me she wanted to learn how to grow carrots. "You remind me of my dad," I said once, after teaching her how to plant. "Is that good?" she asked. "It's the best." Word spread. More kids came. Then parents. Then vendors. By the end of the year, we had a stand at the farmer's market and a workshop called Grow Together Saturdays. I named it Carter Roots.
For him.
But not everything was easy. That winter, a storm destroyed half the greenhouse. Insurance refused to pay. I sat on the floor, bills scattered, sobbing into my coat. That night, Lily found me. "Why did you lie?" she asked. I looked up confused. "You said it would be okay," she whispered. "But you're crying." I couldn't answer. Because sometimes being strong means admitting you're not. I didn't quit. Because my father wouldn't have. 2 years later, Carter Roots won a community award. We were featured in the newspaper. Even the mayor showed up to cut a ribbon. But the real moment, the one that mattered, was quieter. I sat on the porch, just like Dad used to. Journal in hand. I wrote, "Today, the farm is alive again. Kids laugh in the fields. Tomatoes grow wild." And I kept my promise. I looked up at the stars and smiled. "Are you watching, Dad?" I whispered. "Because I finally see what you saw." If this story touched something in you, if you've ever made a promise you were scared you couldn't keep, or if you're holding on to a memory that won't let go, tell me in the comments. Let's honor them together. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories that remind us what matters most.